Well, we have a gold medal winner here in Team USA. Welcome to At Even Strength. It's your all access pass to women's hockey brought to you by Black Rosie Media. Whether you're a longtime fan, a player, just discovering the game, At Even Strength brings you the smart, honest, and passionate coverage women's hockey deserves. And our fearless leader, Erica El Ayala, is still reporting following the gold medal game. I am here with Joe, who is also working with Black Rosie Media here, who is in Milan. And we're going to get to, obviously, the bronze medal game. We'll get to what this means moving forward for everybody and continuing to watch women's hockey. But what is your on the ground reaction to Team USA's gold medal win? Maybe starting with the Hillary Knight game tying goal and then into the overtime.
I do want to start by saying I'm extremely superstitious, and I was worried that I had cursed the team because I had gotten a snack and I left my trash there, and then Canada scored, and I was like, oh shit, oh my god.
Yeah.
So as soon as I threw my trash away, I promise you, I sat down and she scored. And I know as media, you're not supposed to react, you're not supposed to cheer, but I was like, holy shit. I stood up and I had my arms in the air. I didn't say anything. I was like, oh my god. And there was like this delayed reaction for like a split second. It was silent, and then it just erupted in here. It's so crazy because when it gets loud in here, the press box shakes, and it's like the whole floor is shaking, and I was shaking, so it just felt like I was in a little hamster ball and someone was shaking me around. It was extremely intense, and I mean, she's the captain for a reason. Like, of course, it's going to be Hillary Knight, like textbook perfect fairy tale ending.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, if you've been watching any of these live streams, I've been wearing throwback women's hockey merch. And today's outfit of the day is a Hillary Knight Boston Blades CWHL t shirt, if you can believe it. So I felt like that brought a little good luck for Hillary
Absolutely.
Knight.
It absolutely
Um,
did.
my old school jersey. I can't believe it hasn't disintegrated by now, given how old it is. But our girl Hillary, absolutely, she's having a banger of a week, getting engaged. Congratulations to her and Brittany Bowe. Just great couple. So excited for them. And then, of course, she ties the game with the goalie pulled. And, you know, it's not often that that works, especially in those circumstances, right? In this high pressure of a situation.
And I think throughout the game, throughout the first period, throughout the second period, you could definitely see Team USA's frustrations. Like they weren't like we talked about for the last two games. They were really good at building on their own momentum throughout the game. And of course, obviously they finished out here, but you could tell they wanted to have a stronger, faster start and it just wasn't clicking. But oh my God, did it ever click? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was the thing. It was really interesting to me because you and I did talk specifically about will Team USA get off to a weaker start like they have been. It hasn't been bad. It just hasn't been as strong, right? And I think it was a combination of that happening again together with Canada just coming out like absolute gangbusters, like they had not played the entire tournament up until that point.
And I definitely think that, of course, the previous game, Canada against Team USA, really motivated them in a way that was different from how they were moving through their previous games. Like, of course, they knew they were a strong team. Of course, they knew they could rely on their veteran players and their younger players in different aspects. But this specific game, they knew that if they didn't get out ahead first, then it was just over. And I mean, they essentially had the whole game, they had momentum that Team USA just didn't have.
Yeah, I did think though, as the game went on, Team USA had the momentum, right? They were getting into the zone or getting through the neutral zone, but they just weren't clicking. Their passes were a little off. They weren't getting into the right shooting lanes. Their shot accuracy was just not there, right? And so they were like at the doorstep, but couldn't finish. And that's what was so frustrating to me is that I do really think they got it together. They just like could not punch it in for, I would say, maybe the second half of the second period through the third period. I mean, you could see that Canada was playing like hemmed into their zone, but Canada was doing all the little things just to take that one little element away from Team USA's ability to score, and then Team USA would miss the net like pretty frequently with those shot attempts.
And it definitely seemed like maybe rushing isn't the right word, but it definitely felt like they were trying to hurry up and tie it so they'd have more time to relax and play. And then, of course, as we went into overtime, it's already tied and everyone was tense and the whole building felt like it was just not to be like on the nose, but on thin ice. Like everything was just so do or die. And it was, you could definitely tell that in the third, the momentum wasn't one or the other. It was very much whoever has this one quick moment, it's gonna take it all. So when it was tied, ending the third, it was like, wow, okay, well, clearly that was just them trying to build off their own previous games, of course, but then this game specifically, it was, you know how sometimes people like to say every game is a new game, every game is a new team. It definitely felt like that, and it looked like that, especially for both teams. It was so different from how both teams have been playing, but also at the same time, it makes sense how they got to this point.
Right. And that's what makes this rivalry so incredible is that you could play as like Team USA has dominated for the past year, like going back to the Worlds, going back to rivalry series, right? It just seems like Canada wasn't quite there. They've been going with this heavy veteran strategy that didn't seem to be working when it came to playing Team USA. But you get to the Olympic gold medal game and all bets are off, like across the board, right? And you know that going in every single time that literally anything can happen, and it sure as heck did in this game. Leading into that overtime, we look at the Megan Keller move on
Man,
Claire Thompson. Man, she just
man, like
oh
I don't think there's another way to say it. Just man, like I don't even have
yeah.
the words yet.
I mean, that was a move. That was
That
an
was
incredible move. And Megan
like
Keller
wow,
is, and that's why she's out there, right? That's why she's out
exactly.
there in these key situations because she can do that.
And I think it does show the comparison for how Team USA leans on their veterans versus how Team Canada does. I think Team USA let their younger players kind of take charge throughout the whole tournament. You saw them all over the stat sheet. And in this game, in these tiny crucial moments, the veterans stepped up in ways that obviously the newer players, the younger players aren't going to know what to do.
Right.
Not that they are inexperienced in high pressure games, but more so overtime, gold medal game, the Olympics. Like, of course, you want your veterans to step up in ways that you can't even begin to describe, that you can't even like begin to coach them at. It's just like you have to be there in the moment and know what to do. And
Exactly.
boy, did they know what to do.
Yeah, and I do not want to discount the Taylor Heisey outlet pass because like
Absolutely.
just the vision involved there, just to see Megan out there and to be able to send it that far up the ice with Megan having momentum and acceleration into the offensive zone from there. But that was an incredible pass from Taylor
It was
Heisey.
so, like, I keep saying this, that everything was just so intense and everything was like so wild to see. But seeing it happen in real time, it genuinely felt like something from a movie. Like it felt so scripted and so perfect. It couldn't have happened any other way. It's just wow. Like this is probably the most unhelpful live ever because all I'm saying is wow. Like oh my gosh, I can't believe it. It was an amazing pass.
It
And
was. It was
you could just tell
absolutely
like everyone
incredible.
was holding their breath. Oh God.
Yeah, and then of course you have to talk about Aaron Frankel because you look at the one goal that they gave up, the shorthanded goal, early in the second period, while Team USA was obviously on the power play. It was a weird bounce and things went south, but that you looking at it, Team USA only gives up 2 goals the entire tournament And, in the gold medal game, it was a fluky kind of shorthanded goal. Now, Canada has to finish on it, no question. And it was an incredible play there. And I don't want to discount that either. But, you have to have those instincts to jump on those opportunities. But I think Erin Frankel deserves a tremendous amount of credit, especially when Canada had the bulk of the momentum in this game. Like, she absolutely kept them in it.
I do think going into the third, the shots on goals for both goalies in this case were even. I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, I'd have to double check that. But I think, like you said, just a tremendous game for both goalies in a way that's kind of surprising. I'm not saying I expected them to just give up goals, but I did imagine that it would be a little, maybe more of a higher scoring game, a little back and forth, and it not being it definitely raised my blood pressure in a way I was not comfortable with. I was absolutely not prepared for that.
Yeah. And, I think it was definitely not the most disciplined game from Team USA. And there was certainly a lot of things in this game that I think Team Canada ultimately did better, especially again for the first half of the game. I think that Team Canada was a lot more disciplined overall. Didn't really get baited into anything. I mean, there was like the one hooking penalty that, was, there was a little something to that, but truly, like, I think Canada put together as good a game as they could have in these circumstances, and it was so, so close for them.
And I really do agree. And I know, like, down the line, history books won't say, oh, second place, they played amazing. They got all this way, X, Y, and Z. But Canada played an amazing game. Similar in the way that I was talking about how Sweden, leading up to this game, played USA really well. The score sheet
Yep.
just didn't show it. Canada played really well, considering the injuries they've had. The setback, which I feel like no one will ever really count towards them, of having a postponed game and getting this far and having basically their whole rhythm disrupted. They played really well. And and I know obviously everyone on the team, they wanted gold, but this was an amazing game from them. Like, they were playing really well compared to like how Team USA was a little not sloppy, but rushed in certain
Yeah.
ways. Like, they were definitely trying to hurry up and score first, and they didn't. So they were trying to hurry up and tie, and then they were trying to hurry up and win it in regulation, because of course no one wants overtime Olympic hockey, because as if we haven't
We
had
do,
like
but we
7
don't.
games.
Like,
We've
right?
already had like 7 overtimes. Why not just have more? One more.
Yeah,
But yeah,
exactly.
it was very, they played to their strengths in ways that they weren't doing in previous games, and it benefited them. They just came up shorthanded, which sucks. And also, I saw someone say right before I hopped on that this is why we have a series for league games, for league championships. And I was like, yeah, actually, because it's not this intense when it's just one game. It's, I don't know, I feel for Canada, but also I'm really glad for USA.
Yeah, you can feel both ways. I think it is a really good. It was just another classic to add to the pile between
Yeah.
these two teams, and I think one of the things that was frustrating, just from a tournament structure perspective, that we saw, in the men's side of things with the 3-on-3 overtime and elimination games. Don't love that. Still don't love it.
Really hate it.
Super hate it. Super hate it. And especially in the medal games, like, it should be
so
5-on-5.
ridiculous for a medal game. Like, maybe if it was specifically for a group stage, I would kind of get it. Like, you got to get through the games, you want to make it go faster, fine. But for a medal game, that's absolutely absurd to me.
Yeah. Just not okay. Not okay in my book. I mean, I'm sure Team USA won't complain about it at this
Well,
point.
yeah.
But I do, like, I really think it should have been 5-on-5, and maybe that's something they'll look at in future tournaments. But Yeah, just an incredible women's hockey tournament leading to Team USA getting the gold, Team Canada getting the silver, and Team Switzerland getting the bronze.
Yeah.
We do need to talk about that first game because that also went to overtime.
Yeah.
It was just like a nonstop adrenaline day in the women's
Oof.
hockey tournament, and again, like I almost thought, and we talked about this, that this was going to be the better game in some ways. That was a lie. That was a total lie.
Yeah, I think
They
if
were
had
both
we
great
had known,
games.
like we were thinking about it in a very strategic, statistical way, and then they were like, actually, let's exceed the
Actually, no.
expectations. Like, let's go
Yeah,
one step further, and that's what they did. It
yeah,
was,
and
oh,
of course, you talk about Switzerland, and we talked about Hillary Knight being a huge hero for Team USA. I mean, who else but Alina Mueller, right? For Team Switzerland to score that overtime goal. I mean, absolute legend,
just
veteran, um, just phenomenal.
I keep saying it, but fairy tale ending, fairy tale closing for a game. It's so perfect. And hearing the players post game, they agreed. They felt like who else would finish it for them? Who else would win it for them? Who else but like their face of women's hockey in their country?
Yep.
And it sounds cliche, it sounds a little cheesy to be like, yeah, you want that person to bring it home for your team, you want them to win the medal, but hearing how they talk about Elena, hearing how they talk about how excited they are for women's hockey to be growing in Switzerland, but also in general,
Right.
it makes me actually, I think I might be more excited for their bronze than USA's gold, which, if that makes sense, if that's not absurd to say, but
No, absolutely. And in fact, one of my favorite parts of the medal ceremony was watching like Team USA hug and congratulate Team Switzerland on their bronze, right?
yeah, it
That
was
there's like
so
both of those teams who go out on a win, which is always the rough part of a silver medal in these tournaments is like you
like
get a
seeing
silver medal,
first
but you
and
go out
third
on a loss.
so happy, but
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah. But, I really thought Switzerland in this tournament, like they battled hard the entire time. They were outshot, outscored overall in the tournament, but played just, really strong defensively when it counted.
and I think this is another example of a team playing to their own strengths as opposed to playing to what the other team can't do. Because Sweden was a very strong team, and I know I said
Yeah.
that I was rooting for Sweden, and I was okay with either team, but I genuinely thought it would be Sweden. No offense to Switzerland, I'm very happy for you. And seeing how they just I don't know, they pulled something out of themselves that throughout the tournament you could tell they were building towards. And if they had four more teams and two more games, I think maybe this would have been their gold. I think USA would have been pushed in a way that you can't really explain yet because, of course, it didn't happen. But I think some of the players did mention that they do have the path to have a potential gold somewhere down the line.
Yeah.
I
I think,
believe it.
yeah. So Sweden in this tournament, you talk about Switzerland, and they had a lot of fight in them, and they kind of crawled their way, into this bronze medal, absolutely deservedly so. Sweden had such a mountain to climb with being in the group B, and getting into the bronze medal game was such an incredible achievement for them. And I think it pushed their program ahead of where it has been. They established themselves back in the top group very solidly. They averaged 3 goals a game in the tournament, got tremendous goaltending in it. And, I think that Switzerland benefited from being in the top group without having to get the results, whereas Team Sweden dominated Group B and came oh so close to getting that bronze medal. And that's where I think, Sweden in a lot of ways will probably benefit from these Olympics a lot more when all is said and done.
I definitely agree. They have, in terms of current teams and current rosters, I think Sweden is, again, super biased of me, but I think they're very promising. And just the trajectory from the first game to this last game, despite the outcomes, despite the results, they're such a strong team. And they're, as you said, they're very dominant and they're very, I don't know. It was so offensive in a way that the other teams weren't as strong offensively. They were more defense focused, which is great. Of course, like if you can score more, it's great. But you also don't want to be scored on. And I think Sweden is just a potential gold winning team. I'm
Yeah.
going to put that in writing because when
All
it happens,
right.
I'm going to be like, yeah, I called it.
That is a bold statement to make. I would certainly love to see them in a gold medal game for sure in 4 years. I think that would be a tremendous step forward for non-North American teams. I think going back to USA and Canada in terms of what comes next for these teams based on the results, it was a huge topic of conversation that, we've discussed leading up to the tournament. Erica and I have talked about it a lot in terms of the strategy of the roster building and Team Canada going with all PWHL players, more of a veteran presence. Team USA mixing in college players who were absolutely phenomenal in this tournament. Huge part of the success here. Layla Edwards stands out. Abby Murphy stands out. Carolyn Harvey stands out. KK, right? Just tremendous performance from the younger players for Team USA. And I think when all is said and done, you can't say that either team's strategy was wrong per se. It was just that Team USA won out in the end. I do think Canada is going to rethink it a little bit. There's no other way to approach it when you're the losing team that you try and kind of nitpick and look at what changes you can make to try and win next time. But I do think that they weren't necessarily wrong given how they played in the gold medal game. Because if you're Canada and you're constructing a team for success in the gold medal game, they did it. That was the right way to do it. If you're looking for longevity and tournament-wide success, it was not as successful, right? And there's a difference there. But if the only thing that matters is the gold medal, which there's a huge argument to make for that, they did the right thing. So, it's going to be interesting to see what Canada does from here.
I would definitely be surprised if they pivot from their veteran focused, veteran core roster because it wasn't a bad strategy. Like it wasn't
Right.
It wasn't their flaw, their fatal flaw, so to speak. It just compared to the teams they were playing just happened to have more younger players, more first-time Olympians, more first-time players on like their national team respectively. And I think that's one thing that really benefits Canada, that they have a lot of veterans. They have a lot of players who play on the national team. They have a lot of players that have all this experience either through college or through other leagues. And I think that had they gone with a more younger team, with a more inexperienced team, they wouldn't have gotten this far. Like so many of their clutch moments came down to their veteran players. And not to say that their younger players couldn't have stepped up, but I don't think it would have happened like that.
Right. Yeah.
Which is also me just being a little biased for Marie Philippe.
Well, listen, and she was, despite being hurt and, missing games, she had a great tournament. She was named to the All-Star team, the media selected tournament All-Star team, as one of the top 3 forwards, along with Hannah Bilka from Team USA and Alina Mueller from Switzerland that
Basically,
we just talked about.
We've been gushing about.
Yeah, exactly. Could be gushing about Hannah Bilka a little bit more. She
Actually,
really stood out.
I feel like I should go circle back and just start gushing. She was all over the ice. She was all over the stat sheet. And every single time she would come through post-game media, she was just glowing. She was like, I think I could do more. And I was like, yeah, actually, I'd like to see it.
Yeah, please.
Such an amazing player to like see and then an amazing player to talk to afterwards. I'm like, actually, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it. Let's see more.
Yeah, and your 2 defenders on the All-Star team were from Team USA, Layla Edwards and KK Caroline Harvey. Can't argue with that, gotta say.
I feel like this is actually just our fantasy team that we just wrote up.
I know.
Yeah, actually.
And then the goaltender, Andrea Brenly from Switzerland. So
yeah, actually, literally our fantasy team.
Okay.
Right, like, can't argue. Perfect list to me.
No.
Sounds great.
No, those were the correct choices. Like sometimes I
Absolutely.
argue about them, but those were
I felt like this
absolutely
was
the correct
absolutely the
choices.
standouts. They're the stars of this tournament.
Yeah. Interestingly, Megan Keller, who got that amazing overtime gold medal winning goal, finished the games with 3 goals and tied with KK for the points lead in the tournament with 9. And
Which is
so,
so
yeah, so
which is
she didn't
so
quite make the
fun.
cut. Maybe you can squeeze her in there, but if you look at, the breadth of it, I'm not mad about the selections.
Yeah, I think the selections were pretty accurate for basically what everyone and what we specifically have been saying throughout these games. And I don't know, it just felt, and I keep saying it felt very fairy tale ending. It felt
Yeah.
storybook written. Like I couldn't have imagined a better ending.
Absolutely. And so I guess my question for you at this point is given what we saw in this tournament, from all the teams, would you next time in 4 years target switching up the groups and not having a top group and a lower group, but mixing it up?
I absolutely would mix it up. I don't think the groups really benefited from being how they were. And this is I've been saying this the whole tournament. I've literally been like going around. I'm like, do you like this grouping? And everyone's been like, well, and I'm like, okay, that's a no. I think, of course, coming into Olympic hockey, so many people have their eyes on North American teams, North American players. I think it would have really benefited everyone, and the overall result possibly would have been completely different had the groups been different, had the teams had different opportunities to, of course, play other teams. And also, I just wanted to see certain teams play each other. I was just more curious to see how certain games would turn out. And yeah, I think
Yeah.
the seeding, which is probably how they did it, is there's room for improvement. The specific
Yeah.
improvements, I'm unsure of.
I want to do a gut check in 2 years after Women's Worlds, and I want to see what the non Canada USA teams look like. But I think that's when you make the decision for the following Olympics is Women's Worlds in 2 years for sure. But
Absolutely.
obviously Sweden was kind of the odd team out in these circumstances. Kind of stuck in Group B, knowing that they kind of belonged in Group A, and like the mushy middle is getting mushier by the year. And so there's going to have to be a consideration of switching up the format next time around. But we'll see what happens. We'll see if anybody catches up to Team USA and Canada in the interim. I sure hope they do,
I
because
hope so.
it would make it a lot of fun to add that to the mix. And I think that, when we're looking ahead, obviously we want to see most of these players play in the PWHL moving forward, where there's going to be some awkward team reunions here with players from different squads getting back together for their pro teams. But I am sure that Hillary Knight is going to get a hero's welcome in Seattle for
Absolutely.
their first home game back.
Yeah, I think there are 3 or 4 Team USA players on PWHL Seattle. I keep saying PWHL Seattle, forgetting they have a name. It's such a bad habit.
It's the
But
Torrent.
I just love saying PWHL City, and I'm like, oh,
I
I've
know.
created the terrible habit for myself. But yeah, I can't imagine that these returning Olympians don't have the world's greatest celebration waiting for them already. Like, they're just cooking it up. I'm actually kind of a little jealous that I will not be in Seattle. Maybe I'll have to like teleport there. I don't want to miss that.
Yeah, that game is on Friday, February 27th. They will be hosting the Toronto Scepters, coached by Troy
That's
Ryan. So,
yeah, that's gonna be great.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be super fun. And then the day before is going to be the first day back for the PWHL, where Montreal is going to be visiting New York, where there's a bunch of Team Canada players on New York.
Also going to
And
be so exciting.
so exciting. And then Boston gets back into action. Of course, Megan Keller playing for the Boston Fleet, but she's going to be on the road in Ottawa. That'll be awkward too. So
Let's just
we're
make it as awkward as
excited.
possible for this
I
return.
know. It's going to be a lot of fun. Like the return to PWHL action is going to be a ton of fun. And, everybody's going to celebrate their Olympians. Very much looking forward to it. Very much looking forward to, getting back into the action here because, we've got another Walter Cup to play for. And, we have been kind of sitting on it for a few weeks now. Boston leading in the standings at this point, with Seattle at the bottom of the table. So maybe this will give Hillary Knight and Seattle a little bit of juice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can absolutely see it.
So, a little fresh engagement energy as well.
Yeah, it's like the reverse of parent power. It's the engagement power, the fiance fuel. That's what's gonna get her through it.
Yeah, and our good friend Stratic in the comments mentioning the 4 players on Seattle are Hillary Knight, Carpenter, Bilka, and Caleb Barnes. So that should be a lot of fun.
That'll be such an exciting game. I'm actually really upset that I won't be there now. I need to teleport there. Actually, truly.
I know. I wish I could be there too. It'll be a really, really fun night. But there is so much more to come from Black Rosie Media with all the post-game reports, interviews, and breakdowns coming up. So make sure you are following Black Rosie Media on all of the socials and subscribed here on YouTube for the At Even Strength podcast, which this live stream is a part of. Where we talk about women's hockey on a weekly basis here on the internet. Joe, been an absolute pleasure talking women's hockey with you over the course of this tournament, and everybody else we've been talking to here for Black Rosie Media. And stay tuned for more as the PWHL returns.